Chapter 1. Stop reacting to everything. The invisible chain. Imagine your mind as a high-performance engine. Now, imagine that every time a notification pings on your phone, every time someone cuts you off in traffic, every time a coworker makes a passive-aggressive comment, or every time you see a headline that makes your blood boil, you are handing a stranger the keys to that engine. You are allowing them to rev it, redline it, and burn the fuel you were supposed to use for your own journey. Most people spend their entire lives in a state of chronic, low-level emergency. They are not living, they are defending. They are in a state of emotional slavery, bound to the whims of their environment. If the world is nice to them, they are happy. If the world is chaotic, they are stressed. They have no internal thermostat. They only have a thermometer that reflects the temperature of the room they are in. But success, true, enduring success, begins with a radical realization: not everything deserves your attention. In fact, most things deserve to be ignored. The moment you stop reacting is the moment you start leading. The investor's silence, a tale of two minds. To understand the power of non-reaction, let's look at the world of high-stakes finance. Consider the great correction of a volatile market. Picture two investors. Investor A is the reactor. He has his news alerts turned on. He watches the ticker symbols dance in red and green every minute of the day. When the market dips by 5%, his heart rate spikes. He begins to read the doom and gloom editorials. He feels the itch to do something, anything, to make the anxiety go away. He sells his positions at a loss, convinced the world is ending. He is a slave to the moment. He thinks he is being informed, but he is actually just being inflamed. Investor B is the strategist. She knows the market is volatile. She expected the dip. When the alerts come in, she acknowledges them, but she doesn't open her brokerage app. She goes for a walk. She remembers her 10-year plan. While Investor A is panic selling and losing his capital, Investor B is calmly waiting for the bottom so she can buy more at a discount. What is the difference between them? It isn't intelligence. They both have the same data. The difference is emotional sovereignty. Investor B understands that a reaction is a cost. Investor A thinks a reaction is a necessity. In the real world, the market is your life. People will sell their bad moods to you. Problems will crash into your schedule. You must decide, are you going to panic sell your peace of mind, or are you going to remain still? Repeat this to yourself until it becomes a part of your DNA. Calm people choose their reactions. The biology of the blow-up. Why is it so hard to stop reacting? It's because your brain is wired for a world that no longer exists. Thousands of years ago, a rustle in the grass meant a predator. A sudden loud noise meant danger. Your amygdala, the almond-shaped part of your brain responsible for the fight-or-flight response, is an ancient security guard. It doesn't know the difference between a tiger and a snarky email from your boss. It treats both as a threat to your survival. When you react instantly, you are bypassing your human brain, the prefrontal cortex, and letting your lizard brain, the amygdala, take the wheel. This is why you say things you regret. This is why you send that text at 2 a.m. that ruins a relationship. This is why you make impulsive purchases. Reaction is a shortcut that usually leads to a dead end. To be successful, you must train yourself to override the hardware of your ancestors. You must learn to widen the gap between the stimulus, what happens to you, and the response, what you do about it. The 4-step shield. Pause, breathe, observe, decide. If you want to master your life, you must master the gap. This is a practical system you can use starting today. Whether it's a screaming toddler, a demanding client, or a social media troll, the process is the same. Step 1. The pause. The pause is the kill switch for your lizard brain. When you feel that surge of heat in your chest or that tightness in your throat, that is the signal to stop. Do not type. Do not speak. Do not move. Just for 5 seconds. In those 5 seconds, you are reclaiming your soul from the situation. You are signaling to your nervous system that there is no tiger in the room. Step 2. The breathe. There is a biological reason why every meditation teacher and elite soldier focuses on the breath. A deep, diaphragmatic breath sends a physical signal to the vagus nerve to stand down. When you breathe deeply, you are telling your brain, I am safe. I am in control. If you were in true danger, you wouldn't have time to take a slow breath. Therefore, by breathing, you prove to your subconscious that the emergency is an illusion. Step 3. The observe. This is the most powerful part of the strategy. Instead of being the anger, you observe the anger. Imagine you are standing on a riverbank, and your emotions are the water flowing past. You don't jump into the water, you just watch it. Look at that, you think. I'm feeling a lot of resentment right now. My heart is beating fast. My ego feels threatened. By labeling the feeling, you detach from it. You are the observer, not the victim. Step 4. The decide. Now, and only now, you act. You ask one question: what is the outcome I want? If your boss is yelling at you, reacting with anger might feel good for 5 seconds, but will it help your career? Probably not. A calm mind looks past the feeling and toward the goal. You decide whether a response is even necessary. Often, the most powerful response is no response at all. The sovereignty of attention. We live in an attention economy. Your attention is the most valuable thing you own. Companies spend billions of dollars trying to steal it. Political parties spend millions trying to outrage it. Every time you react to a clickbait headline or a provocative tweet, you are working for free for someone else. You are giving them your most precious resource. Success requires a ruthless guarding of your mental borders. You must become a minimalist of reaction. Think of your energy like a bank account. Each day, you are given a limited balance of focus credits. Reacting to a rude driver costs 10 credits. Arguing about politics with a stranger costs 50 credits. Worrying about a what-if scenario that hasn't happened costs 100 credits. By the time you sit down to work on your business, your book, or your health, you are bankrupt. You have no credits left for the things that actually matter. The calm person doesn't have more energy than the reactive person. They simply refuse to waste it on things that don't pay interest. The power of being hard to get. There is a social benefit to being non-reactive. You become a mystery. People who react to everything are easy to read. They are like a piano. If I hit a certain key, I know exactly what note will come out. But a calm person is unreadable. When people try to provoke you and you simply smile and say, I'll have to think about that, or that's an interesting perspective, you shift the power dynamic. You are no longer the one being tested. You are the one doing the testing. In the animal kingdom, the most dangerous predators are not the ones who bark the loudest. It is the predator that remains perfectly still in the tall grass, watching, waiting, and choosing their moment. Quietness is a sign of strength. Noise is a sign of insecurity. Your assignment for today. As you move through the next 24 hours, I want you to go on a reaction fast. Your goal is not to have a perfect day. Your goal is to catch yourself in the act of reacting. When you feel the urge to snap back at someone, count to 5. When your phone buzzes, don't look at it immediately. Wait 2 minutes. Prove to yourself that the phone does not own your hand. When someone criticizes you, listen to them as if they are talking about a movie character, not about you. Notice how much more energy you have at the end of the day. Notice how much clearer your thinking becomes when it isn't clouded by the smog of constant irritation. The world will continue to be loud. People will continue to be difficult. Problems will continue to arise. You cannot change the wind, but you can absolutely choose how you set your sails. Success is not about having a life without problems. It is about having a mind that is bigger than your problems. It is about the quiet dignity of a person who knows that their peace is non-negotiable. Remember, calm people choose their reactions. Everything else is just noise. Chapter 2. The silent power of emotional control. The predictability trap. Imagine you are playing a game of chess against an opponent who can see not only the board but also your internal state. Every time you feel a surge of excitement because you see an opening, your pupils dilate, your breathing quickens, and you lean forward. Every time you feel threatened by a move they've made, you frown, your shoulders tense, and you hesitate. In this scenario, you don't even need to move the pieces for your opponent to know your strategy. You are a book written in large, bold print. You are predictable. And in any competitive environment, be it business, sports, or high-stakes negotiation, predictability is the fastest route to defeat. Emotional people are remarkably easy to manipulate. If I know that a certain criticism makes you defensive, I can use that criticism to distract you from the real issue. If I know that praise makes you overconfident, I can flatter you into a bad deal. When you allow your emotions to sit on the surface of your skin, you are giving the world a remote control to your behavior. You are handing over your power. The calm thinker, however, remains unreadable. This isn't about being a robot or lacking feelings. It's about possessing a poker face for life. It is the ability to feel the surge of anger, the sting of rejection, or the rush of greed, and choose to let none of it reach your face or your voice. This creates an immediate advantage. When people cannot read you, they cannot control you. This is the silent power of emotional control. The contrast of leadership, loud versus quiet. We often mistake volume for authority. We see the shouting boss or the aggressive negotiator and think, that is what power looks like. But true power is rarely loud. In fact, the louder a person is, the more they are usually compensating for a lack of internal control. Think of the captain of a ship in the middle of a Category 5 hurricane. If the captain is on the bridge screaming, pacing, and sweating, the crew will panic. Their fear is a direct reflection of the captain's instability. But if the captain stands still, eyes fixed on the horizon, speaking in a low, steady cadence, giving clear orders without a hint of tremor in their voice, that stillness becomes an anchor for everyone else. One of the greatest examples of this was Ernest Shackleton during the ill-fated Endurance expedition to the Antarctic. When his ship was crushed by ice, leaving him and his men stranded on the frozen sea with no hope of rescue, Shackleton didn't have an emotional breakdown. He didn't vent his frustrations or rail against the unfairness of fate. He understood that his men were watching him for cues on how to feel. He maintained a mask of absolute composure. He focused on the next meal, the next mile, the next task. By controlling his own emotional output, he maintained the morale and ultimately the lives of his entire crew. Contrast this with the modern outrage culture. We see leaders and influencers who thrive on being loud. They react to every slight with a fiery thread or a public rant. While this might get them likes or short-term attention, it costs them respect and leverage. They become known as volatile. And no one trusts a volatile person with $1 billion company or a long-term secret. Remember the phrase, emotion is loud. Power is quiet. The negotiation of silence. In the world of business and high-level negotiations, emotional control is a tactical weapon. Most people are terrified of silence. When a conversation stops, the average person feels an intense emotional pressure to fill the void. They start talking to ease their own discomfort, and in doing so, they often give away information, lower their price, or reveal their weaknesses. The calm mind uses silence as a tool. When you are presented with a proposal that you don't like, instead of reacting with anger or no, try doing nothing. Just look at the other person. Maintain a neutral, calm expression. Count to 10 in your head. The emotional pressure will shift from you to them. They will wonder what you are thinking. They will begin to feel the weight of their own proposal. Often, they will start bidding against themselves just to break the tension you've created. Your lack of reaction is more intimidating than any shouting match could ever be. It signals that you are not desperate. It signals that you are in total control of your internal environment, which suggests you are likely in control of the external one as well. The scientific observer, detaching from triggers. So, how do we achieve this? How do we stop being a puppet to our own biological triggers? The secret lies in a psychological technique called self-distancing or becoming the scientific observer. Most people live inside their emotions. They say, "I am angry." This phrasing implies that the anger and the person are the same thing. To gain control, you must change the language. You are not the anger. You are the container in which the anger is temporarily residing. Imagine you are a scientist in a laboratory, and you are observing a specimen. That specimen is your own emotion. When someone says something insulting to you, instead of feeling the insult, observe the reaction. Interesting. My heart rate just increased by 15 beats per minute. I notice a tightening in my jaw. There is a thought entering my mind that wants to strike back with a personal jab. By observing the feeling, you create a microscopic gap between the stimulus and yourself. You are no longer in the fire. You are watching the fire from behind a pane of reinforced glass. This detachment is where your power lives. It allows you to feel the emotion without obeying it. You must realize that an emotional trigger is just a suggestion. Your brain suggests that you should be offended. Your body suggests that you should be scared. But you are the CEO of your life. You can look at those suggestions and say, "Thank you for the input, but I'm going to go in a different direction." The predictability of the provocateur. In your life, you will encounter provocateurs, people who intentionally try to get a rise out of you. This could be a toxic family member, a competitive coworker, or an internet troll. They use your emotions as a handle to pull you in whatever direction they want. If you get angry, they win. If you get defensive, they win. If you try to explain yourself desperately, they win. The only way to win against a provocateur is to remain unbothered. When they throw a hook at you, expecting a reaction, and you meet it with a calm, bored, or neutral response, you have broken their leverage. They were expecting a specific payoff for their behavior. When you deny them that payoff, you become expensive to provoke. Eventually, they will stop trying to control you because it simply doesn't work. Your emotional control is a filter. It allows the useful information in and keeps the useless noise out. If someone criticizes your work, a calm mind filters out the tone and the insult and asks, "Is there a grain of truth in here that can make me better?" If yes, take it. If no, discard the whole thing like trash. An emotional mind, however, gets so caught up in the trash that it misses the gold. Training the mask. This level of control doesn't happen overnight. It is a discipline. You can start training this muscle in low-stakes situations so that it is ready for high-stakes ones. The traffic test. Next time someone cuts you off in traffic, consciously choose to keep your expression neutral. Don't honk, don't mutter, don't even frown. See if you can remain physically relaxed while the event happens. The waiting game. When you are stuck in a long line or a slow Zoom meeting, watch the frustration rise. Instead of checking your phone to distract yourself, sit with the frustration. Observe it. Don't let it change your posture. The criticism drill. Ask a trusted friend to give you some hard truths about your flaws. Your job is to listen without interrupting, without defending, and without changing your facial expression. Just say, "Thank you for that feedback." These small wins build a reserve of composure. You are teaching your nervous system that it doesn't need to fire the alarm every time something inconvenient happens. The aura of the calm mind. There is a profound psychological effect that happens when you master your emotions. You begin to project an aura of high status. High-status individuals in any social hierarchy are characterized by their lack of frantic movement and their controlled emotional responses. Think of a king versus a court jester. The jester is all movement, noise, and reaction. The king sits still. He speaks less. He reacts slowly. When you become the person who doesn't panic when the numbers are down, who doesn't gossip when the office is buzzing, and who doesn't break when under pressure, people begin to view you as a natural leader. They will seek your counsel. They will trust your judgment. Why? Because they know your judgment isn't clouded by the fog of the moment. The strategy of the unmoved. The silent power of emotional control is ultimately about sovereignty. It is the declaration that nothing outside of me is allowed to dictate how I feel inside of me. When you master this, you become a black hole for negativity. People throw their anger, their drama, and their chaos at you, and it simply disappears into your calm. It doesn't bounce back, which would be a reaction, and it doesn't pass through you, which would be a wound. It just stops. As we move forward, remember that the most powerful person in any interaction is the one who is the most composed. The one who can see the most clearly because their eyes aren't stinging with the tears of anger or the sweat of anxiety. Success is a game of chess, not a wrestling match. In a wrestling match, the loudest and most aggressive might win through brute force. But in the long-term game of life and success, the one who thinks several moves ahead, unswayed by the heat of the moment, will always checkmate the one who is merely reacting. Emotion is loud. Power is quiet. Carry this silence with you into your next meeting, your next argument, and your next challenge. See how much more you can see when you aren't busy shouting. Chapter 3. Slow thinking wins big decisions. The cult of speed. We live in a world that worships the hustle. We are told that if you aren't first, you're last. We are conditioned to believe that the faster we respond, the faster we decide, and the faster we act, the more successful we will be. Our technology reinforces this every second. If a website takes 3 seconds to load, we feel a surge of irritation. If someone doesn't text us back within 10 minutes, we assume something is wrong. This cultural obsession with speed has leaked into our decision-making process, and it is a catastrophe for long-term success. Rushed decisions are almost always rooted in one of 3 things: fear, ego, or exhaustion. We fear we will miss out on an opportunity, FOMO. Our ego wants to prove how decisive and alpha we are. Or, we are simply exhausted by the mental weight of an unsolved problem and we make a hasty choice just to get it off our plate. But here is the reality of the high achiever. Rushed decisions destroy opportunities. A calm thinker understands that while the world is sprinting in circles, the person who slows the moment down is the one who eventually wins the race. They know that in the game of life, there are very few now or never moments. Most emergencies are actually just manufactured urgency created by someone else's agenda. Repeat this lesson to yourself. Speed is useful, but clarity is king. The fog of the moment. In military strategy, there is a term called the fog of war. It describes the uncertainty in situational awareness experienced by participants in military operations. When the bullets are flying and the smoke is thick, it is nearly impossible to see the whole battlefield. If a commander makes a major strategic shift in the heat of that fog, they are essentially gambling with the lives of their soldiers. Your life has its own version of the fog of war. When you are in the middle of a heated argument with your spouse, or when the stock market is crashing, or when a competitor launches a product that threatens your market share, you are in the fog. Your adrenaline is high, your vision narrows, and your brain is screaming for action. The reactive person acts while the fog is thick. They make a bold move that they haven't fully thought through. They pivot their business because of a 1-week dip in sales. They quit their job because of one bad meeting. The calm thinker, however, knows how to wait for the fog to lift. They understand that a decision made with 10% of the information is a 90% risk. They have the discipline to say, "I see what is happening, but I am not ready to act yet." They allow the dust to settle so they can see the true landscape. Case study: the entrepreneur who waited. Consider the story of a tech entrepreneur in the early 2010s. The market was exploding with daily deal sites like Groupon. Every venture capitalist was throwing money at anyone who could build a clone of that business model. The pressure was immense. If you didn't launch a daily deal feature within 3 months, the industry experts said you were too slow and obsolete. Many founders rushed. They pivoted their entire companies, hired hundreds of sales staff, and spent millions on marketing to capture the hype. They moved fast. They were decisive. But one specific founder looked at the data. He saw that while the hype was high, the retention of customers was low. He realized that the business model was a race to the bottom that would eventually burn out. While his competitors were sprinting, he slowed down. He spent 6 months analyzing customer behavior while the noise of the industry screamed at him to hurry up. He decided not to enter the market. 2 years later, 90% of those fast-moving competitors were bankrupt. By waiting for clarity, he saved his company, his capital, and his reputation. He wasn't slow, he was surgical. The PADC system, a blueprint for clarity. To stop making rushed, emotional decisions, you need a system. You cannot rely on feeling calm. You must have a protocol that forces you to be calm. This is the PADC system. Pause, analyze, decide, and commit. Phase 1. Pause. The moment a big decision hits your desk or a crisis appears, your first move is to do nothing. If it's an email, close the laptop. If it's a conversation, say, "I need some time to process this, I'll get back to you by tomorrow." The pause is not about procrastination. It is about clearing the adrenaline out of your system. It takes about 20 minutes for the chemical surge of a stress trigger to leave your bloodstream. Never make a life-altering decision in the first 20 minutes of a crisis. Give yourself the gift of an empty head. Phase 2. Analyze. Once you are calm, you begin the cold, hard analysis. This is where you look for second-order effects. A first-order effect is the immediate result. If I fire this person now, I will feel relieved. A second-order effect is what happens next. If I fire them now, who will manage the project they are 80% finished with? How will the rest of the team feel about the suddenness? What is the cost of hiring a replacement in a hurry? Calm thinkers ask, and then what? 5 times. They play the movie out to the end, while the reactive person only looks at the first scene. Phase 3. Decide. Decision-making is not about finding the perfect choice. There is rarely a perfect choice. It is about finding the choice with the most manageable trade-offs. The calm thinker accepts that every yes comes with a no. If you say yes to a new business partner, you are saying no to total control. If you say yes to a new investment, you are saying no to liquidity. The decision is made by weighing the long-term mission against the short-term cost. Phase 4. Commit. This is the part people miss. Once the slow thinking is done and the decision is made, you must switch back to fast execution. The calm mind doesn't second-guess itself once the path is chosen. You have done the work. You have waited for clarity. Now, you move with total conviction. The reason people hesitate during execution is usually that they didn't spend enough time in the analyze phase. If you know why you are doing something, you can do it with immense power. The FOMO antidote, the temporal horizon. The biggest enemy of slow thinking is fear of missing out. We see others getting rich on a meme stock, or we see a competitor land a big client, and we feel an urgency to act so we don't get left behind. The antidote to FOMO is expanding your temporal horizon. Most people live in a 24-hour horizon. They want to win the day. Successful people live in a 10-year horizon. They want to win the decade. When you look at your life through a 10-year lens, a hot opportunity that requires you to act in the next hour usually looks like a distraction. If it's truly a great business or a great relationship, it will still be there tomorrow. If it disappears because you took 24 hours to think about it, it wasn't a strategy, it was a gamble. Calm thinkers don't gamble. They wait for the fat pitch, as Warren Buffett says. They are willing to look boring or slow to the public because they know that their internal clarity will eventually lead to external dominance. The overnight rule. There is a reason the phrase "sleep on it" has lasted for centuries. During sleep, your brain performs synaptic pruning. It clears out the emotional clutter of the day and integrates new information into your long-term memory. Often, a problem that seems insurmountable at 9 p.m. looks like a simple task at 8 a.m. If you are facing a decision that will matter in a year, you must sleep on it for at least one night. If you still feel the same way in the morning, your decision is likely grounded in logic. If your opinion has shifted, you just saved yourself from an emotional mistake. Slowing down time in a crisis. In high-pressure moments, like a public speech that is going poorly or a negotiation that is turning hostile, you can actually slow down time using your physiology. When you feel the pressure to speak or act quickly, slow down your physical movements. Blink slower. Lower the pitch of your voice. Take a sip of water before answering a difficult question. Pause for 3 seconds between sentences. By slowing your body, you force your brain to believe that you have plenty of time. This prevents the rush and allows you to maintain your clarity. When everyone else is talking at 100 miles per hour, the person who speaks slowly and deliberately becomes the center of gravity in the room. Avoid the hype cycles. Success is often destroyed by the next big thing. Whether it's a new social media platform, a new investment gold rush, or a new management fad, the world is constantly trying to pull you away from your core mission. The calm thinker recognizes a hype cycle for what it is, an emotional wave. They don't jump on the wave just because everyone else is. They ask, does this align with my long-term strategy? Do I understand the mechanics of this, or am I just following the crowd? If you cannot explain why you are doing something without mentioning what everyone else is doing, then you aren't thinking, you are reacting. And as we learned in Chapter 1, reaction is slavery. The power of I don't know yet. The three most powerful words in the vocabulary of a calm strategist are, I don't know. In our expert culture, we feel pressured to have an opinion on everything immediately. But the most successful people are comfortable with uncertainty. They are willing to say, I don't have enough information to form an opinion on that yet. This takes immense ego control. It is a sign of a high-status mind. Only a person who is truly confident in their intelligence is willing to admit when they are still processing. By refusing to give a premature opinion, you ensure that when you do eventually speak, your words carry 10 times the weight of those who spoke first. The lesson: clarity is king. As you move into the next phase of your career or your personal growth, make clarity your primary goal. Don't worry about being the fastest person in the room. Worry about being the person who sees the most clearly. Speed is a tool you use after you have clarity. If you use speed before clarity, you are just accelerating toward a cliff. Practice the PADC system this week. When someone asks you for a quick decision on something important, reply with, I want to give this the attention it deserves. I'll give you my answer by time. Watch how people's respect for you grows when they realize you cannot be rushed. Watch how your own confidence grows when you realize that you are no longer a victim of the now. You have all the time you need to be great. Don't waste it by being fast. Speed is useful, but clarity is king. Chapter 4. Protect your mental energy. The mental battery. Imagine you wake up every morning with a single gold coin in your hand. This coin represents your total mental energy for the day. It is your ability to focus, to solve complex problems, to be patient with your children, and to make strategic decisions for your future. This coin is the most valuable thing you own. It is the fuel for your success. Now, imagine that as soon as you open your eyes, you check your phone. You see an email from a client that annoys you. Give away 10% of your coin. You scroll through social media and see a political post that makes you angry. Give away another 15%. You get into a trivial argument with your partner about whose turn it is to make coffee. There goes another 10%. By the time you sit down at your desk to start your real work at 9 a.m., you have already spent nearly half of your coin. You are trying to build a kingdom with pocket change. The calm mind understands a fundamental law of human biology. Your mental energy is a finite resource. It is not an infinite well you can draw from indefinitely. Every decision you make, every worry you entertain, and every distraction you allow into your space is a withdrawal from your account. If you want to achieve extraordinary things, you must become a miser with your mental energy. You must guard your focus like a billionaire guards their treasury. Remember this phrase: energy is currency. The hidden drain of decision fatigue. Psychologists have identified a phenomenon known as decision fatigue. It suggests that the quality of our decisions deteriorates after a long session of decision-making. This is why you find it easy to eat a healthy salad at 11 a.m., but find yourself eating a box of cookies at 11 p.m. Your willpower isn't a character trait. It is a manifestation of your mental energy levels. Successful people, those who operate at the highest levels of business, art, and leadership, are obsessed with reducing their cognitive load. They know that if they spend their energy on low-value decisions, they won't have it for high-value breakthroughs. This is why Mark Zuckerberg and the late Steve Jobs famously wore the same outfit every day. It wasn't because they lacked a sense of style. It was because they refused to spend even 1% of their gold coin on deciding what to wear. They automated the mundane so they could dominate the meaningful. If you are constantly overwhelmed, it is likely not because your work is too hard. It is because your life is filled with mental friction. You are leaking energy through 1,000 small holes. You are deciding what to eat, what to watch, how to respond to a text, and which task to do first, all in a state of reactive chaos. To be calm is to be organized. To be organized is to be energetic. The theft of outrage. We live in an outrage economy. The algorithms that power our digital world are designed to find what makes you angry and put it in front of your face. Why? Because anger is the most engaging emotion. When you are angry, you stay on the app longer. You comment more. You share more. But outrage is a massive energy drain. When you react to a headline about something happening 3,000 miles away, something you cannot change, influence, or control, you are handing over your mental currency to a corporation for free. The calm strategist practices a low-information diet. They understand that being informed is not the same as being effective. Most of the news we consume is just noise disguised as news. It creates a state of chronic sympathetic nervous system activation, the fight or flight mode. When you are in this mode, your brain cannot think long-term. It is too busy looking for threats. If you want to protect your energy, you must curate your inputs ruthlessly. You don't need to know everything. You only need to know what helps you move the needle on your mission. If an information source makes you feel anxious, drained, or angry without giving you a clear path to action, it is a parasite. Cut it off. The digital fortress. Your smartphone is the greatest tool in human history, but it is also the most sophisticated energy-leaking device ever created. Every ping, buzz, and red is an attempt to hijack your focus. Research shows that even if you don't check your phone, the mere presence of a smartphone on the desk next to you reduces your cognitive capacity. Part of your brain is constantly using energy to not check the phone. To protect your energy, you must build a digital fortress. Turn off all non-human notifications. You do not need an alert telling you that someone liked your photo or that a random app has a 10% discount. Batch your communications. Instead of responding to messages as they come in, check them 3 times a day. Control the timing of your reactions. The morning sanctuary. Do not check your phone for the first hour of the day. This is when your coin is most intact. Use this hour to set your own agenda before the world tries to set it for you. When you control your phone, you control your mind. When you control your mind, you conserve your power. The energy cost of people, the drainers. Not all energy leaks are digital. Some are biological. We all know people who are energy vampires. These are the individuals who leave you feeling exhausted after a 10-minute conversation. They thrive on drama, they complain without seeking solutions, and they project their anxieties onto anyone who will listen. In the pursuit of success, you must be careful about who you allow into your inner circle. Calmness is contagious, but so is chaos. If you spend your time with people who are constantly reacting to their own lives, you will eventually start reacting too. You do not have a moral obligation to participate in every argument you are invited to. You do not have to be there for people who refuse to help themselves. Protecting your energy sometimes means setting hard boundaries with people you care about. It means saying no to the happy hour you don't want to attend. It means ending a phone call when the conversation turns to gossip. Remember, you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. If those 5 people are energy drains, you will never have the capital to build your dream. The power of deep work. The highest form of mental energy is deep work, the ability to focus without distraction on a cognitively demanding task. This is where billion-dollar ideas are born. This is where masterpieces are created. However, deep work is only possible when your mental battery is full. This is why the most successful creators do their hardest work first thing in the morning. They don't check email. They don't look at the news. They go straight from sleep to the mission. By the time the rest of the world wakes up and starts demanding their energy currency, the successful individual has already spent their gold coin on their own legacy. Everything else that happens in the afternoon is just housekeeping. If you find yourself struggling to focus in the afternoon, it's not because you lack discipline. It's because you spent your energy on shallow work in the morning. You spent your currency on pebbles, and now you have nothing left for the diamonds. The strategy of the closed door. In the 19th century, writers and thinkers would often go into seclusion to finish their great works. Today, we don't have that luxury, so we must create mental seclusion. This is the strategy of the closed door, both literally and figuratively. Literally, when you are working, close the door. If you work in an open office, put on noise-cancelling headphones. This is a signal to the world, I am not available for reaction. Figuratively, close the doors of your mind to the worries of tomorrow and the regrets of yesterday. Worrying is the most expensive thing you can do with your mind. It is paying interest on a debt you haven't even taken out yet. When you find yourself worrying, ask, is there an action I can take right now to solve this? If yes, do it. If no, then close the door. Refuse to let the what ifs sit in your living room and eat your food. The physicality of mental energy. We often treat the mind and body as separate, but they are one system. Your calm mind strategy will fail if your body is in a state of physical emergency. Sleep is the recharge station. If you don't sleep, you start the day with half a coin. You will be more reactive, more irritable, and more impulsive. Movement is a generator. Paradoxically, spending physical energy through exercise increases your mental energy capacity. It clears the cortisol, stress hormone, from your system, making it easier to stay calm. Nutrition is fuel quality. If you feed your body sugar and processed chemicals, your brain will experience spikes and crashes. A crashing brain is a reactive brain. To protect your mental energy, you must treat your body like the high-performance machine it is. You wouldn't put cheap gas in a Ferrari. Don't put cheap fuel in the vessel that carries your dreams. The no list. Most people have a to-do list. Successful, calm people have a to-don't list. This is a list of things you refuse to spend energy on. I don't argue with strangers online. I don't check my phone at the dinner table. I don't attend meetings without a clear agenda. I don't explain myself to people who are committed to misunderstanding me. Every time you say no to a distraction, you are saying yes to your future. Every no is a shield that protects your gold coin. The calm morning routine. To implement this chapter, I want you to design a non-reactive morning. For the first 60 minutes of your day, hydrate, drink water before caffeine, move, 5 minutes of stretching or walking, plan, write down the one thing that would make today a success, execute, spend 30 minutes on that one thing before opening any communication apps. By doing this, you are paying yourself first. You are ensuring that your best energy goes to your best goals. Conclusion. Guard your focus. The world is a noisy, demanding place. It will take everything you give it. If you give the world your attention, your emotions, and your energy, it will consume them all and leave you with nothing but burnout and resentment. Success belongs to the person who can remain centered in the middle of the storm. It belongs to the person who knows that their focus is a valuable asset, perhaps the only asset that truly matters. Stop leaking. Stop reacting to the urgent at the expense of the important. Guard your energy. Treat it like the currency it is. When you have a surplus of mental energy, you are calm. When you are calm, you are powerful. And when you are powerful, success isn't something you chase, it is something you attract. Energy is currency. Spend it on your legacy. Chapter 5. The discipline of staying unbothered. The invisible hook. In the world of high-stakes competition, there is a tactic used by the most calculated players. It is called the bait. In sports, it is the trash talker who whispers a personal insult into an opponent's ear right before a crucial play. In business, it is the negotiator who makes an intentionally insulting lowball offer just to see if you'll lose your cool. In your personal life, it is the family member who brings up a past failure at the dinner table. These people are all fishing. They are throwing out a hook, hoping that your ego will bite. Why? Because the moment you are bothered, the moment you feel that hot surge of defensiveness, you lose your leverage. When you are bothered, you are no longer acting according to your strategy. You are acting according to their provocation. The strongest minds in history were not those who fought back the hardest. They were those who were the most difficult to provoke. They possessed the discipline of staying unbothered. They understood a fundamental law of human power. If they can't shake you, they can't stop you. The stoicism of the elite. Think of the greatest athletes in history. Players like Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, or Serena Williams. These individuals were often the targets of immense hostility. Crowds would scream at them, opponents would try to physically intimidate them, and the media would analyze their every flaw. What separated them from the talented players who never quite made it? It was their response to the noise. When an opponent tried to get in their head, they didn't get angry, they got focused. They viewed the provocation as a signal that the opponent was scared. After all, if you could beat someone on skill alone, you wouldn't need to try and rattle their emotions. There is a legendary story about a young player trying to trash-talk Larry Bird during a game. Bird didn't respond with an insult. He didn't get defensive. He simply looked at the player, remained completely unbothered, and then told him exactly where he was going to hit the next shot, and then he did it. By remaining unbothered, Bird maintained total control of the psychological environment. He turned the opponent's weapon against them. In your life, the opponents may not be on a basketball court, but the game is the same. When someone tries to provoke you, they are trying to steal your focus. If you give it to them, they win. If you remain still, they have no power over you. Leverage and the emotional remote control. To understand the power of being unbothered, you must understand leverage. Leverage is the ability to influence a situation or a person. When you are calm, you hold the leverage. When you react emotionally to someone else's behavior, you hand the leverage over to them. Imagine you have a remote control in your hand that can change the channels on a television. Now imagine that you are the television, and the remote control is in the hands of your critics, your difficult boss, or your toxic ex. If they press the anger button, you get angry. If they press the guilt button, you feel guilty. If they press the insecurity button, you start doubting yourself. As long as they have that remote, they own you. You are a puppet. The discipline of staying unbothered is the process of taking that remote control back. It is deciding that your internal state is off limits to outsiders. It is the realization that while you cannot control what people say or do, you have 100% control over how much weight you give their actions. When you are unbothered, you are leverageable. You are a solid mountain that the wind of other people's opinions cannot move. The background noise technique. One of the most effective ways to train your mind to stay unbothered is to reframe negativity as background noise. Think about the sound of a refrigerator humming in the background or the distant sound of traffic. When you first hear it, you might notice it. But because you know the sound isn't important, it isn't a threat, and it doesn't require action, your brain eventually filters it out. It becomes static. You must learn to treat insults, petty criticisms, and negativity in the same way. When someone says something meant to hurt you, your goal isn't to block it out with force. That takes too much energy. Instead, you simply categorize it as static. That person is shouting. That is just noise. This person is trying to offend me. That is just a vibration in the air. By labeling it as noise, you strip it of its meaning. An insult only has power if you accept it. If you treat it as background noise, it passes through your space without leaving a mark on your soul. This is the ultimate high-status move. While everyone else is getting caught up in the drama, you are simply continuing your mission, undisturbed by the buzzing of the flies. Feedback versus attacks, the filter of the wise. Now, being unbothered does not mean being arrogant or deaf to the world. A calm mind is still an observant mind. You must be able to distinguish between useful feedback and personal attacks. Useful feedback is information that can help you improve your strategy. It is usually based on facts, results, and objective observations. Even if it is delivered harshly, the calm mind looks for the gold inside the feedback. Personal attacks are designed to wound your ego. They are usually vague, emotional, and focused on your character rather than your actions. The unbothered person uses a filter. When they hear a criticism, they ask, "Is there anything in this that can make me more successful?" If yes, they take the information and throw away the tone. If no, they treat the entire interaction as noise. An emotional person does the opposite. They get so hurt by the tone that they miss the information. Or, they spend hours ruminating on a personal attack that had no truth in it to begin with. The calm strategist has no time for rumination. If it doesn't help the mission, it doesn't get a seat at the table. The so what method. When you feel the sting of a provocation, there is a simple mental tool you can use to neutralize it instantly. It is called the so what method. Imagine someone says, "Your last project was a total failure," and everyone thinks you're in over your head. Your ego wants to scream. It wants to list your credentials, defend the project, and insult the person back. Instead, say to yourself, "So what? So what if they think that?" Does their opinion change the physics of my next move? No. Does their opinion take money out of my bank account right now? No. Does their opinion prevent me from waking up tomorrow and trying again? No. When you follow the logic of so what, you realize that 99% of the things that bother us have zero actual impact on our ability to succeed. We are bothered by the idea of what people think, not the reality of what they can do. By asking so what, you collapse the phantom power of the critic. You realize you are still standing, still breathing, and still in control. The power of the non-response. In a world of instant replies, the most powerful response is often no response at all. When you respond to an insult or a provocation, you are validating it. You are saying, what you said was important enough for me to stop my life and address it. You are giving the other person a payoff. When you don't respond, when you simply look at the person with neutral curiosity and then go back to what you were doing, you send a devastating message. You are saying, you are not significant enough to affect my mood. This is especially true in the digital age. We feel a need to win the argument in the comments section or to defend ourselves against a false rumor. But the unbothered mind knows that you cannot win an argument with an irrational person. You only win by refusing to play the game. Silence is the ultimate weapon of the self-assured. It leaves the provocateur screaming into a void. Practicing the still face. Physicality plays a major role in staying unbothered. Your mind follows your body. If you allow your face to contort in anger or your hands to shake, your brain will interpret those physical signals as I am in trouble, and it will flood your system with more stress hormones. One of the best disciplines you can practice is the still face. In moments of tension, make it a game to see how little you can move. Keep your eyebrows neutral, don't knit them in anger. Keep your jaw relaxed, don't clench your teeth. Keep your hands open and still. When you maintain a still face, you are performing a biological hack. You are telling your brain, everything is fine. I am not under threat. This allows you to stay logical while the person across from you is melting down. It also makes you incredibly intimidating. There is nothing more unsettling to an aggressor than a person who remains perfectly calm while they are being attacked. Protecting your inner citadel. The Roman emperor and Stoic philosopher Marcus Aurelius spoke of the inner citadel. This is the part of your mind that is completely yours, the fortress where your character and your peace reside. He believed that while the world could take your possessions, your health, or even your life, it could never enter your inner citadel unless you opened the gates. Staying unbothered is the act of keeping the gates closed. You can watch the chaos happening outside the walls. You can acknowledge the storms. But you do not let them in. Success requires this citadel. If you are building a business, a family, or a legacy, you will face siege moments. There will be seasons where it feels like the whole world is trying to bother you. If your peace is dependent on the world being quiet, you will never be peaceful. You must learn to be calm within the noise, not away from it. The mirror effect. An interesting thing happens when you become truly unbothered. You become a mirror. When someone attacks you with anger and you remain calm, they are forced to see their own ugliness. Because you aren't joining them in the mud, they are left standing in the mud alone. Often, this will cause the other person to eventually calm down or retreat in embarrassment. Your calmness acts as a vacuum that sucks the energy out of their drama. This is how you win negotiations and conflicts. You don't win by being more aggressive. You win by being the last person standing with their logic intact. The person who stays unbothered has the endurance to outlast the person who is burning through their energy with emotional outbursts. Your daily discipline. To master this, you must treat it as a daily practice. Do not wait for a major crisis to try and be unbothered. Start with the small pinpricks of life. The minor inconvenience drill. When you drop your keys, or your computer freezes, or you hit a red light, don't sigh. Don't curse. Just observe it. Say to yourself, this does not bother me. The social media drill. Purposely look at a comment or a post that you disagree with. Feel the urge to type a response. Then, consciously choose to close the app. Feel the power of not reacting. The difficult person drill. Next time you have to talk to someone who usually drains you, go into the conversation with the goal of being a scientist. Observe their attempts to bother you as if you are watching a fascinating animal behavior. Conclusion: the mission is the master. The ultimate secret to being unbothered is having a mission that is more important than your feelings. If you don't have a clear goal, a mission, then every little insult feels like a big deal. Why? Because you have nothing else to focus on. But when you are obsessed with your mission, when you are focused on building your success, providing for your family, or changing the world, then the petty opinions of others seem small. A lion doesn't turn around when a small dog barks. Not because the lion is trying to be calm, but because the lion is focused on the hunt. The dog is irrelevant to the mission. Become a lion. Focus on your hunt. Let the world bark. Let the critics shout. Let the provocateurs throw their hooks. Smile. Breathe. Stay on the mission. Because if they can't shake you, they can't stop you. Chapter 6. Focus on the next move, not the noise. The architecture of distraction. Every great endeavor in human history, whether it was the building of the pyramids, the launch of a global tech empire, or the pursuit of a world-class athletic career, has been surrounded by a cloud of noise. In this context, noise is anything that does not contribute to the final objective. It is the gossip in the office kitchen. It is the scathing review from a critic who has never built anything themselves. It is the social media comment section. It is the internal voice of self-doubt that whispers, "What if they're right? And what will people think if I fail?" Most people fail not because they lack talent or resources, but because they get seduced by the noise. They stop their forward momentum to argue with a critic. They slow down their progress to explain their motives to people who don't matter. They spend more time managing their reputation than they do managing their mission. The calm mind operates differently. It understands that energy is a zero-sum game. Every minute you spend obsessing over an opinion is a minute you've stolen from your progress. To achieve elite levels of success, you must learn to treat noise like the static on a radio. You acknowledge it exists, but you refuse to let it dictate the song you are writing. Remember the core lesson of this chapter: the calm mind stays on the mission. The trap of justification. The most dangerous form of noise is the urge to justify yourself. When someone misunderstands you or attacks your work, your ego feels a visceral need to set the record straight. You want to say, "No, you don't understand. Here is why I did that." Or "How dare you say that when I've worked so hard?" This is a trap. When you justify yourself to a critic or a distraction, you are implicitly agreeing that their opinion has authority over you. You are giving them a seat at your boardroom table. The moment you begin to defend your position to someone who isn't part of your strategy, you have already lost. You have allowed them to move you from action time into reaction time. Think of a high-speed train. If the conductor stopped the train every time a dog barked at the tracks, the train would never reach its destination. The conductor doesn't hate the dog. He doesn't even think about the dog. He is focused on the rails, the speed, and the destination. The barking is just noise. It has no power to derail the train unless the conductor chooses to pull the brakes. Success requires you to be that conductor. You must be willing to be misunderstood. You must be willing to let people think you are wrong, arrogant, or crazy while you are in the building phase. The calm mind knows that results are the only justification that matters. The mission is the master. Case study. Building through the storm. Consider the early days of any disruptive creator. When Jeff Bezos started Amazon, the noise from the financial world was deafening. Amazon.bomb was a common headline. Critics mocked the idea that a bookstore on the internet could ever be profitable. They called him delusional. If Bezos had spent his energy reacting to the analysts or trying to win the opinion game in the newspapers, he would have drained the mental energy required to solve the massive logistical problems of his business. He stayed calm. He stayed on the mission. He focused on the next move, better shipping, wider selection, lower prices, while the world focused on the noise. Similarly, look at the career of elite creators in the arts. When a filmmaker releases a movie that is ahead of its time, they are often panned by critics. The noise says the movie is a failure. But the calm creator doesn't stop to argue. They are already in pre-production for the next film. They know that reaction is a stagnant state, while action is a progressive state. The lesson here is simple. Critics observe, creators build. Critics are the noise, creators are the signal. You must decide which one you are. The chess player's mindset, the next move. In the game of chess, the most common mistake for an amateur is to obsess over a mistake they made 5 moves ago. They lose a pawn, and their mind gets stuck on that loss. They replay the error in their head, they feel the sting of regret, and they get angry at themselves. While they are busy reacting to the past, their opponent is planning the future. A grandmaster, however, has a next move mentality. If they lose a piece, they don't ignore it, but they don't mourn it either. They immediately look at the board as it exists now and ask, what is the best next move from this position? The past is noise. The opponent's trash talk is noise. The crowd's reaction is noise. The only thing that is real is the current state of the board and the next move that leads toward checkmate. You must apply this to your life and career. Did your marketing campaign fail? Next move. Did a key employee quit? Next move. Did someone post a hit piece about you online? Next move. The next move mentality is the ultimate cure for anxiety. Anxiety is almost always a reaction to the noise of the future, worry, or the noise of the past, regret. By forcing your mind to focus solely on the immediate, strategic action you can take right now, you ground yourself in the present. You replace the what if with what now. Replacing reaction time with action time. To master the calm mind, you must begin to track your reaction to action ratio. Most people spend 80% of their day in reaction time. They react to emails, they react to the news, they react to their own moods, and they react to the opinions of others. They spend only 20% of their day in action time, meaningful, proactive work that moves their mission forward. If you want to achieve success that others only dream of, you must flip this ratio. Your goal should be 80% action and 20% reaction. How do you do this? By creating a noise buffer. Stop the instant reply. When something happens that creates noise, a criticism, a problem, a distraction, do not respond immediately. Every time you respond instantly, you are reinforcing the habit of reaction. Delay your response. Prove to yourself that the noise does not dictate your schedule. The output first rule. Do not allow any noise into your mind until you have produced some signal. This means no news, no social media, and no email until you have completed your first next move of the day. Audit your conversations. Pay attention to how much of your talking is spent discussing other people's opinions or events you cannot control. This is vocal noise. Practice speaking only about strategy, growth, and execution. When you replace reaction time with action time, you find that you have a massive surplus of energy. You aren't tired because you're working too hard. You're tired because you're reacting too much. The calm mind stays on the mission. What exactly is the mission? The mission is your North Star. It is the objective that is so important to you that it makes the noise irrelevant. If your mission is to provide a life of absolute freedom for your family, then the noise of a stranger's insult on the internet shouldn't even register on your radar. If your mission is to build a product that solves a real problem for 1 million people, then the noise of a competitor's temporary success is just data, not a disaster. A calm mind is anchored by a deep sense of purpose. When you are anchored, the waves of noise might toss you around, but they cannot pull you out to sea. If you find yourself constantly bothered by the noise, it is a sign that your mission isn't clear enough. You are focusing on the noise because you don't have a signal strong enough to drown it out. You need to go back to the drawing board and ask, what am I actually trying to achieve here? Why does this matter? When the why is big enough, the who said what becomes small. The strategy of aggressive ignoring. We are taught from a young age that ignoring people is rude. In the calm mind strategy, ignoring is a high-level skill. I call it aggressive ignoring. Aggressive ignoring is the conscious decision to treat certain stimuli as if they do not exist. This isn't passive, it's an active exercise of will. When a critic barks, you don't try to ignore them. You decide that their voice is literally non-existent in your reality. You don't read the comment. You don't open the link. You don't engage in the he said she said. By aggressively ignoring the noise, you preserve your mental vibrancy. You keep your mind clean. Think of your mind like a high-end laboratory. If you let people wander in with their muddy boots and their trash, you can no longer do precision work. Aggressive ignoring is the security guard at the door of your mind, turning noise into fuel. There is an advanced level of the calm mind where you don't just ignore the noise, you use it. Think of a wind turbine. The wind is noise, it is chaotic, unpredictable, and potentially destructive. But the turbine doesn't try to stop the wind. It doesn't get angry at the wind. It simply positions itself so that the force of the wind turns its blades and generates power. You can do the same with criticism and opposition. Instead of letting a critic's words deflate you, let them sharpen your resolve. Instead of letting a competitor's move panic you, let it clarify your own unique advantage. Use the energy of the noise to propel your next move. They think I can't do this. Fine. That's more energy I can put into my next hour of work. They think my idea is stupid. Good. That means they won't try to copy me while I'm building it. This is the ultimate form of emotional alchemy, taking the leaden weight of noise and turning it into the golden fuel of ambition. But you can only do this if you remain calm. If you get emotional, you aren't the turbine. You're just a house getting blown over by the storm. Action time, the next move audit. To finish this chapter, let's perform a next move audit. Think of the biggest noise in your life right now. Maybe it's a person who is constantly criticizing you. Maybe it's a financial worry. Maybe it's a mistake you made last week that you can't stop thinking about. Identify the noise. Name it. The noise is my fear of what my old colleagues will think of my new business. Acknowledge the cost. How much action time have you lost to this noise in the last week? Be honest. Determine the next move. What is one physical, strategic action you can take right now that moves you toward your mission, regardless of that noise? Execute and close the door. Do that move. Once it is done, refuse to look back at the noise for the rest of the day. The more you do this, the more you realize that the noise has no hands. It cannot touch your work. It cannot stop your hands from moving. It cannot stop your brain from strategizing. It is a ghost. And ghosts only have power if you believe in them. Conclusion. Stay on the mission. Success is a game of endurance. It is about who can stay focused the longest while the world tries its best to distract them. The critics will eventually get tired of shouting. The trolls will move on to a new target. The hype will die down. But if you stay calm and you stay on the mission, you will still be there. You will be the one with the results, the legacy, and the peace of mind. Stop listening to the why. Stop listening to the who. Look at the board. Find your next move. Make it. Then find the one after that. The calm mind stays on the mission. Chapter 7. Train your mind to pause. The myth of the natural. We often look at people who remain composed under pressure, the surgeon whose hands never shake, the CEO who delivers bad news with a steady voice, the athlete who sinks the winning shot while the crowd is screaming, and we assume they were born that way. We call them naturally calm. We tell ourselves, I could never do that, I'm just a reactive person. It's my personality. This is a dangerous lie. Calmness is not a personality trait. It is a trained reflex. It is a neurological muscle. Just as no one is born with the ability to bench press 400 pounds, no one is born with the biological ability to remain perfectly still while their world is falling apart. Those who appear naturally calm have simply spent years, intentionally or unintentionally, training their brain to find the pause. In this chapter, we are going to move away from theory and into the gym. If you want the rewards of a calm mind, you must do the repetitions. You must understand that composure grows through deliberate practice, and that practice happens in the small, boring moments of your life so that it is available to you in the big, chaotic ones. Remember the key mantra, pause creates power. The anatomy of the gap. There is a famous concept often attributed to the psychologist and Holocaust survivor Viktor Frankl. Between stimulus and response there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom. For the reactive person, that space is non-existent. The stimulus happens, an insult, a bill, a crash, and the response follows immediately, like an electrical short circuit. There is no thought, no strategy, and no choice. There is only a reflex. The goal of training your mind to pause is to widen that gap. At first, the gap might only be half a second long, but with training, you can stretch that half second into 5 seconds, then 30 seconds, then a minute. When the gap is wide enough, you are no longer a victim of your circumstances. You are a strategist looking at a map. When you pause, you are performing a biological manual override. You are telling your sympathetic nervous system, the system that wants to pump you full of adrenaline and cortisol, to stand down. You are forcing the blood to flow back into your prefrontal cortex, the seat of logic, reason, and long-term planning. Repetition 1. The physiological manual override. The fastest way to train the pause is through the breath. You have heard this 1,000 times, but you have likely never understood the why behind it. Your breath is the only part of your autonomic nervous system that you can control consciously. You cannot tell your heart to beat slower or your stomach to digest faster, but you can control your lungs. When you are stressed, your breathing becomes shallow and fast. This creates a feedback loop. The brain tells the lungs to breathe fast because there is a threat, and the fast breathing tells the brain, yes, there is definitely a threat, keep the adrenaline coming. To break the loop, you must use box breathing. This is a technique used by elite special forces to maintain composure during combat. Inhale for 4 seconds. Hold that breath for 4 seconds. Exhale slowly for 4 seconds. Hold the empty lungs for 4 seconds. The training. Do not wait for a crisis to do this. Do it when you are sitting in a red light. Do it when you are waiting for a meeting to start. Do it while you are brushing your teeth. You are training your brain to associate a deliberate pause in breathing with a state of control. You are building the muscle memory of calmness. Repetition 2. The counting rule. The second exercise is designed to engage your logical brain when your emotional brain is trying to take over. I call it the counting rule. When you receive a stimulus that upsets you, a rude text, a critical comment, a setback at work, your lizard brain wants to fire back immediately. To stop this, you must give your logical brain a task that requires zero emotion but absolute focus. Before you respond, count backward from 10 to 0. Why backward? Because counting forward, 1, 2, 3, is too easy, it's a rote habit. Counting backward, 10, 9, 8, requires a tiny bit more cognitive effort. That effort is enough to pull your energy away from the rage and back into the logic. The training. Practice this with small annoyances. If you drop your phone, count backward from 5 before you pick it up. If someone interrupts you, count to 3 before you continue speaking. These micro-pauses are the weights you lift to prepare for the heavy lifting of a major life crisis. Repetition 3. The draft folder strategy. In the digital age, our greatest enemy is the send button. We have the ability to ruin our reputations and relationships in a matter of seconds. To train the pause in your professional life, implement the 24-hour draft rule. If an email or message makes you feel a strong emotion, whether it is anger, intense excitement, or defensive anxiety, you are forbidden from sending a reply immediately. Write the reply. Be as honest, as angry, or as emotional as you want. But save it in the drafts folder. Then, walk away. By the time you return to that draft 24 hours later, the chemical storm in your brain will have passed. You will read your own words and realize how reactive they were. You will see the strategic errors you were about to make. You will then delete the draft and write a calm, surgical, and effective response. The training. Do this even with low-stakes messages. Practice delaying the gratification of having the last word. The power is not in the reply. The power is in the ability to wait. The social power of the pause. There is a secondary benefit to training the pause. It changes how the world perceives you. In social and professional hierarchies, the person who reacts the fastest is often perceived as the person with the least power. Think about it. A servant reacts immediately to a master's call. An employee reacts immediately to a boss's request. A person who is insecure reacts immediately to a perceived slight. When you intentionally pause before you speak, you communicate high status. You are signaling that you are not intimidated by the silence. You are signaling that your thoughts are valuable and that you take the time to weigh them before sharing. In a negotiation, the person who pauses for 5 seconds after being asked a difficult question gains the upper hand. The other person begins to feel nervous. They wonder, what is he thinking? Did I say something wrong? Your pause creates a vacuum of power that you can then fill with a deliberate, calculated response. Exercise. The delayed reaction social drill. For the next week, I want you to practice a specific social drill. Whenever someone asks you a question, whether it's a colleague asking for an opinion or a friend asking where you want to eat, wait exactly 3 seconds before you answer. Look them in the eye, keep your face neutral, and count 1 1,000, 2 1,000, 3 1,000 in your head. At first, this will feel incredibly awkward. You will feel an itch to speak. That itch is your reactive mind. By resisting it, you are training your composure. Eventually, the awkwardness will disappear and be replaced by a sense of profound stillness. You will find that because you waited, your answers are more concise and your presence is more commanding. Training for the black swan moments. In probability theory, a black swan is an event that is unpredictable, has a massive impact, and is often explained away with hindsight. In your life, a black swan might be a sudden job loss, a medical emergency, or a legal problem. When a black swan event happens, the pause is the only thing that will save you. If you panic, you will make the problem 10 times worse. If you react, you will bleed resources and energy. This is why we train in the small moments. You don't train for a hurricane when the wind is already at 100 miles per hour. You build the house to be hurricane-proof when the sun is shining. Every time you choose to pause during a minor traffic jam or a boring meeting, you are adding a brick to the citadel of your mind. When the real crisis hits, your brain will not go into a state of panic because it has been programmed to pause. It will default to the breath. It will default to the count. It will default to the analysis. You will be the calmest person in the room because you have spent more time in the composure gym than anyone else. The physicality of the pause. To train your mind to pause, you must also train your body to be still. The mind and body are a feedback loop. If your body is fidgeting, tapping a foot, or constantly moving, your mind will remain in a state of high alert agitation. The training. Practice stillness. Set a timer for 5 minutes. Sit in a chair. Your only goal is to not move a single muscle except for your lungs. Don't scratch your nose. Don't adjust your posture. Don't shift your weight. Observe the urges to move. This is exactly what it feels like when you have an urge to react to an insult. By physically resisting the urge to scratch an itch, you are neurologically training yourself to resist the urge to fire back at a critic. You are learning that an impulse is not a command. You are the master, and the impulse is just a suggestion. Success and the executive pause. Think of the most successful person you know. When they are faced with a complex problem, do they start shouting and running in circles? Or do they lean back, look at the ceiling, and stay silent for a long moment? That is their executive pause. It is the mark of a person who understands that the quality of their life is determined by the quality of their decisions, and the quality of their decisions is determined by the space they create before making them. If you want to reach the next level of success, you must stop valuing busyness and start valuing stillness. You must stop priding yourself on how fast you work and start priding yourself on how well you think. And you cannot think if you are constantly reacting. The mantra in action. As you move forward from this chapter, I want you to carry the phrase "pause creates power" with you. When you feel the chemical surge of an emotion, say it to yourself, "Pause creates power." When you are about to send an angry text, say it, "Pause creates power." When the world is screaming at you to move faster, say it, "Pause creates power." The pause is not a sign of weakness. It is not a sign of indecision. It is the signature of a person who is in total command of themselves. It is the moment where you stop being a billiard ball being knocked around by the table and start being the player holding the cue. Conclusion. Composure is a choice. Training your mind to pause is the hardest work you will ever do because it requires you to fight your own biology. Your brain wants to react. Your ego wants to be heard. Your body wants to move. But every time you choose to pause, you are winning a victory over your lesser self. You are building a version of yourself that is unshakable. The world is full of people who react. It is full of people who are loud, predictable, and easily manipulated. By training the pause, you separate yourself from the crowd. You become a person of depth, a person of strategy, and a person of power. Don't wait for a big enough reason to be calm. Start with the next breath. Start with the next 5 seconds. Train the pause, and the power will follow. Pause creates power. Chapter 8. Detach from immediate gratification. The tyranny of the now. We live in a world designed for the now. We have instant streaming, instant food delivery, instant credit, and instant feedback via social media. Our entire modern infrastructure is built to satisfy our impulses the very second they arise. While this makes life convenient, it has created a massive psychological handicap for the average person. We have become dopamine addicts, constantly seeking the next quick hit of satisfaction. But here is the cold, hard truth of success. The more you are ruled by your immediate desires, the less control you have over your ultimate destiny. Immediate gratification is the enemy of strategy. It is the fuel for impulsive decisions that feel good for 5 minutes but cause pain for 5 years. The calm thinker understands that the greatest rewards in life are hidden behind a wall of boredom and delay. To be successful, you must learn to detach yourself from the emotional urgency of the present moment and develop what psychologists call a high temporal horizon. You must internalize this lesson. Short-term excitement destroys long-term success. The marshmallow of life. You may have heard of the famous marshmallow test conducted at Stanford University in the 1960s. A child was placed in a room with 1 marshmallow. They were told that the researcher had to leave for a few minutes, and if the child could wait until they returned without eating the marshmallow, they would be rewarded with a second one. The children who ate the marshmallow immediately were reacting to an emotional impulse. The children who waited were using their calm mind. They were visualizing a future state that was better than the present one. When the researchers followed up with these children decades later, the ones who had delayed gratification had higher SAT scores, lower levels of substance abuse, and better financial stability. As adults, our marshmallows are more complex. It's the marshmallow of buying a luxury car on credit instead of investing that money into a business. It's the marshmallow of winning an argument today at the cost of a partnership tomorrow. It's the marshmallow of seeking likes on a post instead of doing the deep work that actually changes lives. The reactive mind sees 1 marshmallow and panics that it might be the only one it ever gets. The calm mind knows that there is an entire factory of marshmallows waiting for those who can sit in a quiet room and wait. The emotional urgency of impulses. Why do we make impulsive decisions? Why do we hit buy now on things we can't afford, or quit a project the moment it gets difficult? It's because of emotional urgency. When we want something, our brain creates a narrative that we need it immediately. This urgency is a form of stress. Our lizard brain perceives the want as a survival requirement. If we don't get the reward now, we feel a sense of loss or anxiety. The calm strategist recognizes this urgency for what it is, a chemical illusion. They understand that the itch to act is just a signal from the nervous system, not a command from the soul. When you feel that surge of "I need to do this now," that is the exact moment you must do nothing. You must detach. You must realize that the excitement you feel is actually a warning sign. Excitement is often just anxiety in a party hat. It clouds your judgment, narrows your vision, and makes you overlook the risks. Investing, the ultimate game of patience. Nowhere is the cost of immediate gratification more visible than in the world of investing. The stock market is essentially a giant machine designed to transfer wealth from the impatient to the patient. The average investor reacts to short-term excitement. They see a stock mooning and they feel the emotional urgency to buy in at the top because they don't want to miss the fun. Or they see a 10% dip and they feel the emotional urgency to sell because they want the pain of the loss to stop right now. The calm investor, the Warren Buffetts and Charlie Mungers of the world, does the opposite. They detach from the daily noise. They are willing to look wrong or boring for years because they are focused on the 20-year horizon. They understand that short-term excitement destroys long-term success. If you are constantly chasing the next big thing, you are a gambler, not a strategist. A strategist is comfortable with the middle of the journey, where nothing exciting is happening, but the compounding is doing its silent work. The 5-year test, your strategic filter. To train your mind to detach from the now, you need a simple, repeatable question that you ask before every major decision. I call this the 5-year test. Whenever you are about to make an impulsive purchase, send a reactive message, or change your career path, stop and ask, will this matter in 5 years? Let's look at how this filter changes your perspective. The angry text. You are furious at a coworker. You want to send a scathing reply. Will this matter in 5 years? No. In 5 years, you won't even remember this person's name. But the damage to your reputation as a volatile person might still be there. Decision. Delete the draft. The luxury purchase. You want the new $1,500 gadget. It feels like a need. Will this matter in 5 years? No. In 5 years, that gadget will be in a junk drawer or a landfill. But that $1,500 invested at a 10% return would be nearly $2,500. Decision. Keep the money. The hard work. You are tired and want to skip your workout or your study session. Will this matter in 5 years? Yes. The habit of discipline you build today will be the foundation of your health and wisdom in 5 years. Decision. Do the work. The 5-year test pulls your consciousness out of the now and into the future. It forces your logical brain to evaluate the trade-off. It reminds you that you are building a life, not just reacting to a day. The success saboteur. Short-term excitement. We often think of excitement as a positive thing. We want to be excited about our business, our relationships, and our goals. But in the world of strategy, excitement is a saboteur. When you are excited, you are in a state of high emotional arousal. You are more likely to overpromise, overspend, and overextend. This is why many businesses fail after their first big success. The founders get excited, they hire too many people, they move into a fancy office, and they lose focus on the boring tasks that made them successful in the first place. They traded their calm consistency for short-term excitement. Think of excitement like a firework. It's bright, it's loud, and it gets everyone's attention. But it's over in seconds and leaves nothing but smoke. Think of success like a coal fire. It isn't flashy. It doesn't make a lot of noise. But it burns steady and hot for hours, providing consistent warmth and power. The calm mind chooses the coal fire. They are suspicious of anything that feels too exciting too quickly. They know that if a deal sounds too good to be true, or a trend is moving too fast, it is probably a trap for the impulsive. The discomfort of the wait. Detaching from immediate gratification requires you to become comfortable with a specific type of pain, the discomfort of the wait. When you want something and you choose not to get it, your brain will scream at you. You will feel an itch. You will feel behind. You will see others on social media flaunting their immediate rewards, and you will feel like a fool for waiting. The calm mind treats this discomfort as growth pains. They realize that every time they resist an impulse, they are strengthening their willpower muscle. They are proving to themselves that they are the master of their impulses, not the other way around. If you can endure the discomfort of being bored while others are excited, you will eventually reach a level of success that others can only dream of. The wait is the filter that separates the masters from the amateurs. Discipline is not deprivation. Many people view delaying gratification as a form of deprivation, as if they are punishing themselves by not having the fun now. The calm strategist views it as investment. You aren't saying no to the reward. You are saying not yet and more later. You aren't depriving yourself of a vacation. You are investing in a future where you can vacation whenever you want without debt. You aren't depriving yourself of an argument. You are investing in a long-term relationship that provides peace. When you shift your perspective from deprivation to investment, the wait becomes much easier. You aren't losing anything. You are just letting the interest accrue. The strategy of future self-advocacy. One of the most effective mental tools for detaching from the present is to treat your future self as a real person who depends on you. When you make an impulsive, short-term decision, you are essentially stealing from your future self. When you spend money you should save, you are making your 60-year-old self work longer. When you eat junk food, you are giving your future self a body that is tired and ill. When you react in anger, you are making your future self deal with the wreckage of a broken reputation. The calm mind is an advocate for the future self. Before you act, ask, if my 10-year-older self were standing in the room right now, what would they beg me to do? Your future self has the benefit of hindsight. They know that the excitement of today isn't worth the regret of tomorrow. Listen to them. They are the only critic whose opinion truly matters. Practical exercise. The 72-hour rule. To build the habit of detaching from immediate gratification, I want you to implement the 72-hour rule for all non-essential purchases and major decisions. If you see something you want to buy, or an amazing opportunity you want to join, you must wait 72 hours before taking action. Day 1. You will feel the urgency. Your brain will tell you it's a limited time offer and you must act now. Day 2. The excitement will begin to fade. You will start to see the flaws or the trade-offs. Day 3. You will look at the decision with a calm, neutral mind. Usually, by the end of the 72 hours, the desire has evaporated. You realize you didn't actually need it. You were just reacting to a marketing hook or social pressure. If, after 72 hours, you still believe it is a good strategic move, then you can proceed with confidence. You aren't reacting, you are deciding. Avoiding the sunk cost trap. Immediate gratification also shows up in the form of emotional sunk costs. We often stay in a bad relationship, a failing business, or a dead-end job because we want the immediate gratification of not having to admit we were wrong. We don't want to feel the pain of starting over right now. So we stay in a situation that destroys our long-term future. The calm mind is willing to take a short-term loss for a long-term win. They are willing to feel the immediate sting of a breakup or a business pivot if it means they won't be in the same miserable place in 5 years. Don't let the now trap you in a permanent mistake. Be willing to be uncomfortable today so that you can be unstoppable tomorrow. The reward of the long game. There is a unique kind of peace that comes with playing the long game. When you detach from immediate gratification, you stop feeling the frantic energy of the world. You don't care about the daily fluctuations of the market, the latest trends on social media, or the urgent gossip of the office. You are on a different timeline. You are like a farmer who has planted 1,000 trees. You don't go out every morning and scream at the dirt because there are no apples yet. You calmly water the trees, you prune the branches, and you wait. You know that because you chose the long game, the harvest is inevitable. The person who wants apples now will end up buying them from you later at a premium. Patience is the ultimate competitive advantage. Conclusion: the mission over the moment. As you conclude this chapter, look at your life and find one area where short-term excitement has been leading you astray. Is it your spending? Is it your emotional reactions? Is it your lack of focus on a single project? Decide today to wait. Decide to detach. Decide to prioritize your mission over your moment. The path to success is paved with the no's you said to the things that didn't matter. It is built on the foundation of the mornings you worked when you wanted to sleep and the investments you made when you wanted to spend. Keep the mantra in your mind: short-term excitement destroys long-term success. Be the person who waits for the second marshmallow. Be the person who plays the decade, not the day. Be the calm mind that sees through the now and builds the forever. Chapter 9. Calm consistency beats intense bursts. The myth of the heroic burst. We love the story of the all-nighter. Our culture romanticizes the entrepreneur who stays up for 3 days straight to finish a product, the athlete who trains until they collapse, and the student who crams a semester's worth of knowledge into a single caffeinated night. We view these intense bursts as evidence of passion and dedication. We see them as heroic. But from the perspective of the calm mind strategy, these bursts are not signs of strength, they are signs of poor strategy. Intense bursts are almost always fueled by emotional motivation. And as we have discussed, emotions are volatile. When you operate in a burst, you are riding a wave of adrenaline, guilt, or sudden inspiration. But waves always crash. When the adrenaline fades, it is replaced by burnout, resentment, and a low that often lasts longer than the high that preceded it. Success is not a sprint. It is an ultramarathon. If you run the first mile at world record speed, you will be walking the remaining 25. The person who wins is the one who finds a pace they can maintain regardless of how they feel. The calm individual doesn't look for bursts. They look for rhythms. They understand that while intensity gets the headlines, consistency gets the results. Remember the phrase, calm progress compounds. The adrenaline trap versus the steady system. There is a fundamental difference between an adrenaline-based life and a system-based life. The adrenaline-based person waits until a deadline is looming or a crisis occurs to find their spark. They need the pressure to perform. This creates a sawtooth pattern of progress, a sharp spike of productivity followed by a deep valley of exhaustion. Over time, this wears out the mind and body. It makes you a reactive worker. You only move when the world pushes you. The system-based person operates with a calm mind. They do not wait for the spark. They have a routine that they execute with clinical detachment. Whether they feel inspired or tired, they show up and do the work. This creates a linear or exponential pattern of progress. It isn't flashy, and it doesn't feel heroic on a Tuesday afternoon, but it is unstoppable. Think of a dripping faucet. A single drip seems insignificant. You could wipe it away with a finger. But if that faucet drips calmly and consistently every second of every day, it can eventually fill a bucket, then a bathtub, and if left long enough, it can erode solid rock. The rock isn't broken by the force of the water. It is broken by the frequency of the water. The mathematics of compounding. In finance, compound interest is often called the eighth wonder of the world. It is the process where your earnings begin to earn their own earnings. In the beginning, the growth is so slow it's almost invisible. But after a certain inflection point, the curve turns vertical. This same principle applies to your habits, your skills, and your reputation. If you improve your skills by 1% every day, you don't just become 365% better in a year. Because of compounding, you become 37 times better. If you write 1 page a day, you have a book in a year. If you save $50 a week, every week, for 30 years, you have a fortune. The problem is that most people quit during the flat part of the curve. Because they don't see immediate, exciting results, they assume their consistency isn't working. They get bored. They decide they need an intense burst to jumpstart things. They change their strategy, they switch niches, or they go on a heroic push that leads to burnout. By seeking intensity, they reset their compounding clock to zero. The calm mind has the strategic patience to stay on the flat part of the curve, knowing that the vertical part is inevitable if they just don't stop. The athlete's secret: training, not testing. In the world of elite sports, there is a distinction between training and testing. Testing is when you go to your absolute limit. You see how much you can lift, how fast you can run, or how long you can endure. Testing is exhausting and requires recovery. Training is the daily, calm repetition of the fundamentals. It is usually done at 70% to 80% of your maximum capacity. Amateurs test themselves every day. They try to crush it in every workout or every work session. They think that if they aren't exhausted, they haven't worked hard enough. Professionals train. They focus on the quality of the movement and the consistency of the schedule. They leave the gym feeling like they could have done a little more. That little bit extra is the energy they use to show up and do it again tomorrow. If you crush it today, you might be too crushed to do anything tomorrow. The goal is to work in a way that allows you to work again. Success is the result of 1,000 average days, not 10 perfect ones. The psychology of burnout. Burnout is not caused by hard work. It is caused by emotional work. When you work with a calm mind, you are simply executing a task. You are a craftsman at a bench. But when you work in an intense burst, you are usually battling yourself. You are fighting procrastination, you are managing anxiety about the outcome, and you are using willpower to force yourself forward. Willpower is an inexhaustible resource. It is like a battery. When you use intense bursts, you are fast draining that battery. Burnout happens when the battery can no longer hold a charge. Calm consistency, however, relies on habit. Habits don't use the battery. They are hardwired into the system. When something is a habit, it requires zero willpower to start. The calm mind focuses on building the habit first and the results second. They know that once the habit is established, the results will take care of themselves. Case study: the tortoise of content creation. Look at the landscape of modern creators, YouTubers, writers, or podcasters. You will see thousands of hares. They launch with 10 high-quality videos in a month. They are all in. They tell everyone how hard they are hustling. They are excited. But then, life happens. They get a cold, or they have a busy week at their real job, or a video doesn't get the views they expected. Because their progress was fueled by excitement rather than a calm system, they disappear. They burn out and haven't posted in 6 months. Then you see the tortoise. They post once a week. Every week. Rain or shine. For the first year, they have almost no followers. The hares laugh at them for being slow. But the tortoise is calm. They aren't checking the stats every hour. They are just focused on the next drip in the bucket. Fast forward 3 years. The hares are all gone, they've moved on to the next hype. The tortoise now has a massive library of content. Compounding has kicked in. Their old videos are feeding their new ones. They have built an empire out of boring consistency. Calm progress compounds. The lower bound strategy. To master calm consistency, you must stop focusing on your maximum and start focusing on your lower bound. Most people plan their lives based on their best days. They say, I'm going to work 8 hours a day, hit the gym for 2 hours, and read 50 pages. That works for about 3 days, until the first bad day hits. When they can't meet that high bar, they feel like failures and do nothing at all. They fall into the all or nothing trap. The calm strategist sets a lower bound, the absolute minimum they will do on their worst, most chaotic day. If the goal is to write a book, the lower bound is 1 sentence. If the goal is fitness, the lower bound is 5 minutes of stretching. If the goal is business growth, the lower bound is 1 reach-out email. On a good day, you will do much more. But on a bad day, you must do the lower bound. Why? Because the lower bound keeps the compounding clock ticking. It prevents the zero. In mathematics, anything multiplied by 0 is 0. If you go from 100 to 0, you have broken the chain. If you go from 100 to 1, you are still in the game. Consistency is about the refusal to let the chain break. Embracing the boring. One of the biggest obstacles to calm consistency is the need for novelty. Our brains love new things. New creates dopamine. Consistency, by definition, is not new. It is doing the same thing over and over. It is boring. The reactive person interprets boredom as a sign that they should stop or change direction. They think, I'm not feeling the passion anymore, maybe this isn't for me. The calm mind understands that boredom is the gatekeeper of success. On the other side of that boredom is the vertical curve of compounding. To be successful, you must develop a high tolerance for the mundane. You must learn to find a quiet satisfaction in the drip, drip, drip of the daily routine. Think of it like a professional pilot. Most of their job is incredibly boring, monitoring gauges, following checklists, and flying in a straight line. But that boring consistency is exactly what makes them a professional. If a pilot got bored and decided to do an intense burst of acrobatic maneuvers just to feel some passion, they would be fired, or worse. Treat your success like a professional pilot treats a flight. Follow the checklist. Stay on the path. Value the safety of the routine over the thrill of the burst. The no heroics rule. In many high-performing organizations, they have a no heroics rule. This means that if a project requires someone to work 20 hours a day to save it, the project was planned poorly. Heroics are seen as a failure of the system, not a badge of honor. You should apply this to your own life. If you find yourself needing a heroic burst to finish a task, ask yourself, where did my system fail? How can I make this so calm and consistent that I never need a hero again? When you stop relying on heroics, you stop experiencing the crash that follows them. You become a steady, reliable force. People know that you will deliver, not because you're a superhero, but because you have a calm mind and an unbreakable routine. Your daily consistency audit. How do you know if you are practicing calm consistency or just drifting? Ask yourself these 3 questions at the end of each day. Was I reactive or proactive? Did I work according to my schedule or according to the world's demands? Did I meet my lower bound? Did I keep the chain of compounding alive? Could I do exactly what I did today for the next 10 years? If the answer to the 3rd question is no, then you are likely in an intense burst. You are over-leveraging your energy. You need to slow down, simplify, and find a pace that is sustainable. Remember, the world is full of flashing stars, people who burn bright for a month and then disappear. You want to be a fixed star. You want to be the light that is always there, night after night, guiding others by your steady presence. Conclusion: the quiet victory. Calm consistency is a quiet victory. There is no applause for doing your lower bound on a Tuesday when you're tired. There are no headlines for sticking to your investment plan when the market is boring. But over time, these quiet victories accumulate into a life that looks like a miracle to outsiders. People will look at your success in 5 or 10 years and say, "You're so lucky," or "You're a genius." You will just smile and know the truth. You weren't a genius. You didn't have luck. You simply had a calm mind. You refused to be seduced by intense bursts. You understood that calm progress compounds. You stayed at the faucet. You let it drip. And now, you own the ocean. Chapter 10. Become the calmest person in the room. The invisible hierarchy. In any environment where human beings gather, whether it is a high-stakes boardroom, a heated family argument, or the chaotic aftermath of a sudden emergency, there is an invisible hierarchy at play. We often think this hierarchy is based on titles, wealth, or physical strength. But in moments of pressure, those external markers vanish. A new hierarchy emerges, and it is governed by a single principle. The person with the most stable nervous system wins. Psychologists call this emotional contagion. Human beings are hardwired to mirror the emotions of those around them. If one person in a group panics, the threat signal spreads like a virus. But the reverse is also true. If one person remains profoundly, unshakably calm, they become the anchor for the entire room. The calmest person in the room is the one who controls the outcome. They are the one who dictates the pace of the conversation, the one who filters the information, and the one to whom everyone else looks for a cue on how to feel. If you can master the art of being that person, you don't need to shout to be heard, and you don't need to force people to follow you. They will do it instinctively. Remember the final lesson of this strategy: when everyone reacts, you remain still. The law of emotional gravity. Imagine a room filled with people as a solar system. Most people are like small asteroids, erratic, easily influenced by the pull of nearby planets, and bouncing off one another in a state of constant reaction. The calmest person in the room is the sun. The sun doesn't react to the asteroids. It doesn't move toward them or try to convince them to stay in orbit. It simply exists as a massive, stable center of gravity. Because of its sheer stability, everything else is forced to revolve around it. When you are in a conflict, say, a negotiation where the other side is getting aggressive, their goal is to pull you into their orbit of chaos. They want you to get defensive, to get loud, and to get emotional. If you do, they have won, because you are now playing the game on their terms. But if you remain still, if you lower your voice as they raise theirs, if you slow your breathing as theirs quickens, you exert emotional gravity. Eventually, they will find it exhausting to maintain their high-energy state in the face of your stillness. They will subconsciously begin to mirror your tone. They will start to slow down. By refusing to be moved, you have moved them. The negotiator's secret: the stillness that wins. Consider the world's most elite hostage negotiators. When they are on the phone with someone in a state of absolute psychological breakdown, they do not use intense bursts of authority. They don't shout orders. Instead, they use a technique called late-night FM DJ voice. They speak in a low, downward inflecting, calm cadence. They use silence as a tool. By being the calmest person in the room or on the line, they provide a safe harbor for the other person's emotions to land. In a business context, this stillness is equally lethal. I once knew a CEO who was famous for his weighted silence. During a merger negotiation, If the other side presented a figure he didn't like, he wouldn't argue. He wouldn't show anger. He would simply sit perfectly still, looking at the lead negotiator with neutral curiosity, and say nothing for 10, 15, sometimes 20 seconds. The pressure in the room would become almost unbearable for the other side. Because they were reactors, they felt an overwhelming need to break the silence. They would start explaining their reasoning, then they would start making concessions, and eventually they would lower their own price, all without the CEO saying a single word. He won because he was the calmest person in the room. He knew that the first person to react to the silence was the person who lost the leverage. The eye of the storm, leading in a crisis. In 2009, Captain Chesley Sully Sullenberger was flying US Airways Flight 1549 when both engines were disabled by a bird strike. He had seconds to decide what to do. The noise was literal, alarms were screaming, the cockpit was filled with the smell of burning birds, and his co-pilot was in shock. If Sully had been a reactor, he would have panicked. He would have been loud. Instead, if you listen to the black box recordings, his voice is eerily calm. He tells air traffic control, "We're gonna be in the Hudson," with the same tone a person might use to order a coffee. Because he was the calmest person in the room, his co-pilot was able to focus on the checklists. Because the cockpit was calm, the flight attendants remained professional. Because the crew was professional, the passengers followed instructions. That calm saved 155 lives. You may never have to land a plane in a river, but you will have engine failure moments in your business or your family. You will have moments where the alarms are going off. In those moments, your primary job as a leader is not to solve the problem, it is to be the calm. The solution can only be found after the panic has been neutralized. If you can be the eye of the storm, the one point of stillness while everything else is spinning, you will never lack for followers. People are desperate for stability. They will gravitate toward the person who doesn't break. The physicality of composure. To become the calmest person in the room, you must master the physicality of composure. You cannot fake this. Your body must lead the way. The weighted gaze. Most people have shifty eyes when they are nervous. They look away, they blink rapidly, or they scan the room for an exit. The calm person has a weighted gaze. They look people in the eye with a relaxed, soft focus. They aren't staring aggressively, they are simply present. The slow pivot. Watch a person who is in a state of reaction. They move in jerky, fast motions. They snap their head toward a noise. They fidget with their hands. The calm person moves with deliberate economy. If someone calls their name, they turn their head slowly. They keep their hands still or move them in smooth, purposeful arcs. The lowered pitch. When we are stressed, our vocal cords tighten, and our pitch rises. This signals submission or fear to the group. To project power, consciously lower the pitch of your voice and speak from your diaphragm, not your throat. The stillness of the core. Keep your torso still. People who are reacting are often leaning forward, aggression, or leaning back, avoidance. The calm person stays centered. Their spine is straight, their shoulders are relaxed, and they take up their space without apology. When you master these physical cues, you change your own internal chemistry. By acting calm, you become calm. And by becoming calm, you transform the room. Absorbing the chaos, the black hole strategy. As you rise in success, people will bring their chaos to you. They will bring you their problems, their fears, and their dramas, hoping that you will react to them. The calmest person in the room uses the black hole strategy. A black hole is so massive and so stable that not even light can escape it. When someone throws a packet of drama at a black hole, it doesn't bounce back. It doesn't cause an explosion. It is simply absorbed and disappears. When a disgruntled employee comes to you with a crisis of gossip, don't feed it. Don't say, "Oh my God, really?" Instead, listen with a neutral face. Let the information enter your field and then, nothing. "Thank you for telling me. I'll take that into account." "I see. What is the next move you're recommending?" When you refuse to reflect the drama back, you become a dead end for chaos. This makes you incredibly efficient. People will learn that if they want to vent, they should go to someone else. If they want to solve, they come to you. You are the filter that turns noise into strategy. The outcome of stillness. What is the ultimate reward for being the calmest person in the room? It is perspective. When everyone else is reacting, they are blind. Their vision is narrowed by their emotions. They are only looking at the next 30 seconds. They are making mistakes, burning bridges, and missing opportunities because they are too busy being bothered. Because you are still, you see everything. You see the hidden motives of the negotiator. You see the real cause of the conflict. You see the opportunity that everyone else is too panicked to notice. Stillness is like standing on a mountain while everyone else is in the fog. The calmest person in the room wins because they are the only one who can actually see the room. A summary of the strategy. We have traveled a long path together through this book. We learned to stop reacting, recognizing that reaction is slavery. We discovered the silent power of emotional control. We practiced slow thinking to win big decisions. We learned to protect our mental energy like the currency it is. We developed the discipline of staying unbothered. We focused on the next move, ignoring the noise. We trained the pause as a physical skill. We detached from immediate gratification to play the long game. And we embraced calm consistency over the burnout of intense bursts. All of these chapters have been leading to this final moment. Your ability to step into any situation, no matter how chaotic, and be the anchor. The final lesson. When everyone reacts, you remain still. There will be a moment in the near future where everything goes wrong. Someone will insult you deeply. A project you spent months on will fail. A person you trusted will let you down. The world will be screaming at you to panic, to cry out, to defend yourself, or to quit. In that moment, I want you to remember this book. I want you to feel the surge of emotion, and then I want you to pause. I want you to take one deep, box breath. I want you to look at the situation not as a victim, but as a strategist. Ask yourself, what is the next move? Look at the people around you. Notice their frantic energy. Notice their loud voices and their predictable reactions. Then, smile. Not an aggressive smile, but a calm, knowing smile. A smile that says, I am the master of this moment. Speak slowly. Move deliberately. Stay on the mission. The world belongs to those who can remain calm when no one else can. Success isn't about being the smartest, the fastest, or the loudest. It is about being the one who is still standing, with a clear mind and a steady heart, after the storm has passed. The strategy is simple, but the discipline is for a lifetime. Go into the room. Let them react. Let them shout. Let them panic. You remain still. And in that stillness, you will find everything you have ever been chasing. Conclusion. Thank you for listening to the Calm Mind Strategy for Success. Your journey into stillness begins now. The next time your phone rings, the next time a problem arises, the next time the noise begins, you know what to do. Choose your reaction. Protect your energy. Stay on the mission. Be the calmest person in the room. End of chapter 10. End of book.